All right, another episode of Performance Review. I am absolutely jacked to be able to do this with our next guest. Three-time UFC title challenger. Some of my best memories and some of the most MMA I ever learned was sitting in the avocado room at Fox Sports with this man and picking his brain whilst watching MMA fights. One of my favorite fighting minds, Kenny Florian. What's up, Flo?
What's up, man? Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Great to see you.
Meant every single word. Genuinely jacked you get to do this. So I always looked at, like, I always thought of you as like the ultimate martial artist in MMA. And that sounds like, of course, everyone is. It's like, well, like some fighters are like more fighters. Some fighters are kind of more athletes. And you got to be all three to be a successful MMA fighter,
Yeah.
right? You got to have the fight in you. You got to be an athlete. But I
Agreed.
always thought you were you maximized every single skill set you had, which is, I feel like, the goal of martial arts is to take what you can do and do it the absolute best.
Yeah, I think that I started from the aspect of first saying, you know what, I was drinking the jujitsu Kool-Aid and I got into fighting because I wanted to test my jujitsu against other martial artists. I was like, yeah, the Gracies are right. I must test my jujitsu and see if it works against other styles and prove that it is superior to all styles. And of course, and Bruce Lee knew this many moons ago. It's not about that. It's about learning as many tools and having as many tools in your toolbox as you can. Why? Because you pose more problems that way. So I then fell in love with all the other martial arts because you realize that first of all, certain people are going to be better at you at certain things, right? You can come in as a jiu-jitsu guy and then not be able to use it because the guy is a superior wrestler or maybe better at jiu-jitsu. So then what else are you going to have, right? The game changes as you go and you have to be as versatile as possible and as capable as possible in all those different modalities.
And that's why I feel like this is so fun, is because you came into MMA so new. Like when we first saw you on The Ultimate Fighter, just so green, like you said, basically just
I was trash. I was trash.
And it was so fun re-going through your tape again because you had your trademarks, right? Your elbows, which we'll get into, your rear naked choke we'll get into, but your striking evolved drastically. And that was so kind of fun to watch. Like, you knew what your bread and butter was and you never went away from it, but you also built so much in other things. And that sounds like a no-brainer, but you see a lot of guys do that. You'll see wrestlers just fall in love with their hands and just completely lose the wrestling or vice versa, right? Like, you were so good at keeping your elbows, keeping your rear naked choke, jiu-jitsu in general, but then the rest of your game, I got, like, just rewatching it, just kept evolving.
Yeah, I think I discovered elbows pretty early on and realized that you didn't have to be so powerful to be effective with them. And even if you're not knocking someone out or hurting them, just a little bit of a cut can bring chaos into the fight and create desperation. And it also is a great tool in tight, right? So
Yeah.
if someone wanted to be in close, I didn't really have the knockout power, but I had some elbows that I could use. So I tried to create ways not only to use them, but also to like force people into being in those situations as much as possible. So like, not necessarily leading with them. Like, let's say if you have a good overhand right, it's like not throwing them. It's like, how do I lead them into it without them even knowing, that kind of stuff.
Well, let's start with that then. Your elbows, because that's how everyone kind of got to know you out of the gate. And I've told you this before, Kenny, for like the decade plus in MMA, where everyone's just like, all elbows do are cause cuts. Like, Strikeforce had a no elbow rule. Tournaments had no elbows. I blame you, Kenny, because
It's my fault.
in the highest profile fights, you were just cutting fools up, getting them in the suture room on a regular basis. And so everyone's just like, oh, this is stupid. Why do we have it? It's like, well, because, it wins a fight, like it works.
It works. I was a terrible plastic surgeon, but they if you're able to cut people again, I think that it and I experienced it actually when I cut Sherk, but and I'm sure we'll go over that. But like even the blood, like the blood in your eyes is if you're, seeing blood, you're seeing some damage. And I think that leaves an indelible mark as well for the judges to kind of look at. And I think it leads to a whole lot of different things. It changes the spirit of the fight in a lot of ways.
Well, let's start with that. Alex Karalexis, August 2005. This was your first UFC win. This is right after, the Ultimate Fighter finale. Standing elbow here. And you've got Alex throwing punches. You're covered up pretty well. And then boom, just nicks. And you can see his face just hurts so bad. And then you clear out of the way. Textbook. Walk me
Yeah,
through what you were doing here.
yeah, Alex is such a dangerous puncher, but um, if you can sit in the storm, and this was kind of the first times that I was doing this at a higher level,
Mhm.
the power isn't necessarily the concern if you know how to diffuse it and if you know how to counter it. And a lot of times
Mhm.
that power can actually lead to their downfall. So his head tends to be up when he punches, and I was
Yep.
kind of waiting on the timing of the same side that he's throwing his punch is the same side that I was going to throw his elbow, because as
Okay.
your arm is extended, if you don't bring it back to its home base and protect your head again, um, you're vulnerable, right? So I tried to get it when it was extended and time it well enough. And that time I did. I sliced him across his nose. It was one of those things where it landed perfectly. And it was such a dangerous cut, actually, that it almost ended his career.
Oh.
Alex, every quarter will send me a picture of his nose. It's like, yeah, you did this. But I remember him telling me that they're like, yeah, we needed to stop the fight. The doctor told him we needed to stop this fight. I guess they could see like kind of like the nasal passages inside his nose. It was that kind of deep of a cut, and
Wow.
he couldn't train for a very, very long time. And lost his sense of smell, or could have lost his sense of smell for the rest of his life. So, yeah,
Wow.
it was a nasty one, but I happened to time that one well.
So it looked like you're playing a little bit of peekaboo right
Mm-hmm.
there. So you're
Yes.
covering up really well, right? You're not taking punches, or you're
Yep.
not. Nothing's really landing clean. But
Yes.
right there, it looks like you take a little bit of a peek,
Mm-hmm.
go back to covering, and then, like you said, you time for this arm to get extended,
Yes.
and then that's when the elbow comes in.
Yeah. And again, he's moving forward, so his aggression ends up kind of leading to his downfall there. And
Mhm.
again, Alex was offensively very dangerous, but sometimes defensively not as responsible as he should have been. So I was hoping for that aggression to kind of lead to his downfall, and I had nowhere to go, so I looked like I was very vulnerable. So I kind of would purposely back myself up into the cage in that regard, and kind of get him to throw a lot more than maybe he wanted to.
Mhm.
And he was kind of losing at that point. So I think he was a little bit more desperate and needed to kind of be aggressive. So it worked out.
So I've talked to other really good elbowers, like Alan Joban. Like he wants to just crack your skull. Like he wants to
Yeah.
knock you out with an elbow, right? So his technique is I have your head. I'm trying to pull you in. Get as much power as possible. Can rattle that skull, right?
Yes.
You're different. You wanted to cut. You wanted to kind of nick it across. Does it change? Did you ever want to be the knockout elbow guy? Did you just kind of stumble into the cut? Did just like why was that your style of elbow?
Oh, for sure. Like I would have loved an elbow knockout, and
Mm,
it was interesting. So the way that I was influenced by the elbow was to cut. In Thailand, I guess they do things a little differently. And the way I was taught by Mark Delagrati, my Muay Thai coach coming up, was, the ability to cut someone with elbows was a skill that was like very admired in Thailand.
mhm,
So I think I had that influence a lot. And it was also seen as a way of causing a lot of damage in a
mhm.
different way, and could threaten the fight. So that's kind of how I learned it, and it wasn't necessarily like I guess because of that influence, I didn't see it as like a dirty thing. But I think other people did. Like they didn't like the fact that I was cheering when I cut Karalexis and some other people with elbows and things like that, and that kind of changed my perspective a little bit. I was like, is it? I kind of was
Yeah.
questioning that. I was like, that's kind of the way I come up. So I think it was the Thai influence that really got me to use that. Whether it was Mark Delagrati's influence or going to Thailand, that was something that was almost revered in some ways. Knees to the body and elbows in tight for cutting was something that I think they kind of praise, I guess, in Thailand.
Well, I think Chris Lieben put it best, and he's obviously the one of the best guys to say it because you cut him in the Ultimate Fighter. He's like, look,
Yeah.
a cut is as valid of a win as an armbar. Like
Yeah.
it's in the rules of mixed martial art. If I could damage your face so bad, where a
Right.
doctor says you can't cage fight anymore,
Sure.
mission accomplished.
Yeah, and, you know, and it's like if you're out there in the field and you're just bleeding, you know, let's say
Mm,
there is no ref, there is no rules, you know, that's
yeah.
eventually going to take its toll, be it, you know, impeding your vision or, you know, blood loss or what have you.
I'd say so. I think your Shawn Sherk elbow was probably the most impressive in the sense where you did it with like 4 inches of space and you managed to cut him drastically. This is just in round two.
Yeah.
This elbow. This is 2006, obviously UFC title fight. Shawn Sherk, no question what he wanted to do. Really good wrestler, really good
Yeah.
top control guy. We're also going to discuss the evolution of your hair too, as this tape goes on. You're in the just rolled out of bed in fifth grade stage of your hair, but there's
Hair was
constant
not my
evolution.
focus when I was fighting, that's for
Not at
sure.
the no. You refined that very well towards it was like your boxing game. Your hair and boxing evolved at the
It
same rate.
did. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Shirk was so damn strong, RJ. It was insane.
Yeah.
It was literally, you know, the muscle shark was such a silly nickname, but he really
Mm,
felt like a ball of muscle. And he was so stocky and he liked to pass from very in close, like tight, you know,
yep.
controlled, but you know, chest to chest, hip to hip kind of control. And that was the only space I could really create. Like he really knew how to use his pressure and his head.
Mm,
And I knew I needed to kind of push that head away to kind of deflect and get him to stop doing that because it was
mm,
extremely effective. Um, Now I did cut him really badly in this instance, and I didn't need a whole lot of space. It was almost I almost let his head drop into my elbow. It's like I'm posting, and then it's just
post.
a small little tight. Like I'm
And
loosening
look,
my elbow
just
when I'm doing it. I'm not trying to tense my elbow so much because you kind of want to create a whipping like motion with your elbows. That creates a much better way of cutting. You know,
yeah,
there's inserting the knife and there's slicing with the knife, and this was more of a slice, and
yeah.
this is how I was doing it. Now, it kind of came back to haunt me because all of his blood that was leaking from his head was leaking into my eye and face, and I was tasting blood for like a week. So it was
Ugh.
nasty, man. And again, I think I took 3 showers, and still in the morning, I woke up and found blood behind my ears and my
Yeah.
eyelids. Like it was nasty. It was one of the bloodiest fights in UFC history.
And again, it's so wild how in just the tiniest little bit of space you were able to do this. Like you said, like he's just such good top pressure and he's not
Yes.
trying to rear up and punch really big. He wants a tight pass and work his game. But just like this little tiny like the space between there's like just inches
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah,
And that's
there was
enough. Boom.
100%. There wasn't a whole lot of space there. You know, what I should have been doing, which I wasn't doing a great job from, and we may get into that later, was kind of off balancing him
Okay.
and using kind of knee levers to off balance his hips. I wasn't aware or understanding that aspect of the game so much. And for me, I needed to create some kind of barrier or give him some kind of a threat for doing that. You know, it's like every
Mhm.
decision you make in a fight, there's like there's some kind of cost analysis that you need to make as a fighter. It's like
Yeah.
I can move forward and be super aggressive, but that also may get me knocked out.
Yeah.
So it's like finding out what the risk is, and I kind of wanted to let him know that he could do that, but there might be some repercussions for it, and that helped me out in that regard a little bit.
Yeah. And I think also, like, you talk risk reward, like, this is such a low risk move too, right? Like, you go
Yeah,
for an arm bar,
totally.
they could pass, right? Like, this is just such a low risk because he's trying to be low risk, right? He's just
Mhm.
real tight on you, underhook, just trying
Yes.
to do a tight pass, and you're like, "All right, you wanna play that game? I'm gonna use just this." This is like the furthest distance you had, and that's all it
Yes.
took. That's
Yeah,
all
you
it
know,
took.
given my skill set at the time, this was kind of the only thing I could think of in the moment to deal with this. And then this is actually where we can get
Dude,
into the knee levers and stuff.
this
Yeah.
this blood, man. Dude, you weren't kidding, man. Just and the cut was, not a big cut, but it was just
Yeah.
just enough right
Eh,
there.
and
Blood
to go
everywhere.
further in regards to like how this kind of worked against me too, it's like now it made it so much more slippery to control them. It made it more slippery for me to get submissions off the like it's tough enough
Mhm.
to try to armbar a T-Rex, you know, like Shawn
Yeah.
Sherk, but like to do it now with blood, it kind of was difficult. And this is another situation where I could have used more knee levers and types of like off balancing methods to kind of get them from controlling me like this. So, but it helped
Blood
in some ways and
everywhere.
hurt me in other ways. But yeah, and I got a funny story about that. Those shorts after the fight, I guess Lorenzo Fertitta absolutely loved the fight, and he wanted both of our shorts, Shawn Sherk's and my shorts, to frame. He really enjoyed that fight. Wanted to frame those shorts as a memory for that event, and
As a scientific study of what happens when blood
yeah,
gets in fabric.
exactly, exactly. So he asked one of his assistants to do that, and his assistant took it, and he's like, Lorenzo wants your shorts. Could you give them? I'm like, yeah, sure. Here you go. They were white. They were blood red, literally after. And he put them, I remember he put them in a plastic bag. And he calls me the next week. And he's like, dude, he goes, I left your shorts in a plastic bag in my car in the
In the
Las
Vegas
Vegas
sun.
sun. And he goes, it smelled like death in my car. He goes, and those things were like stiff as a board. He's like, and I had to get those framed for Lorenzo. He's like, it was just a complete mess. So yeah, pretty funny.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you, Richie.
great. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I would love to know where those shorts are right now. You don't always just do elbows defensively. Like, it was also a big part of when you got on top, half guard, mount, etc.
Yes.
One of your really good ones was against Alvin Robinson, 2007. This is Robinson's debut, round number 1, and it's pretty textbook Kenny Florian in a lot of ways. Takedown, pass, ground and pound. He ends up tapping to strikes. So this is a nice little takedown, right? Single leg, switch to a double, boom, pass right away. And it takes you about 4 seconds to go mount, right? Kind of half fake Kimura, slide the
Yes.
knee across, and then just right into hell here. Just elbows, posting at points, punching at points. He turns, you change it, and he actually taps to strikes here, which should count as 2 wins if you get a UFC level guy to tap to strikes. Like, that's very hard to do. So I want to know. So walk me through this sequence, and then I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah, well, you're onto
Okay.
it. So I
Okay.
did threaten with that Kimura. I was trying to pin that arm down, and that achieves two things. For me, it allows me to threaten an armbar, but it
Mhm.
also opens up that space between armpit and hip. And if you occupy that space between armpit and hip, that gives you ultimate control. If you look at all the
Mhm.
best controlling positions, back mount, side control, you can occupy that space and really nullify someone's escape there. So from there, I'm constantly going to try to advance my position if I can. It was available there. He opened up that space. I opened up that elbow. I'm like, cool, mount, my favorite position in a fight.
Mhm.
Now, I encourage a lot of the guys that I work with from being extremely aggressive from this mount position, because this is one of the few opportunities where I can hit without interruption, without taking any shots back myself.
Yep.
So this was my opportunity to be as aggressive as possible to either get him to tap out or get a stoppage or get him to turn his back. So when you're in this position, I encourage everybody to really go for it. Like, especially, you don't need to be in the best of shape to do this. Obviously
Mhm.
I did my best to be in great shape so I can keep this level of volume and activity and power. But so I just got extremely aggressive once I got in this mount position, and basically made him make a decision. You either are going to give up. This is not going to stop. You're going to have to give your back to prevent the shots from happening, or be tough enough to take all these shots, man.
Yeah.
Or it's like if you're in that position and you're throwing 10, 20, 30 shots with bad intent, elbows, punches, like the ref's going to come in and say, like, they have to stop the fight. You're not defending
Yeah.
yourself intelligently. So what energy you put into finishing from this position can save you from maybe like going into the third round and maybe it coming back to haunt you, right? So
Yeah, because people say all the time, like, guys go for finishes and they kind of like blow their wad there, right? They get so
yeah,
exhausted. But like, I guess what you're saying is the risk reward is worth it, right? Because like, yeah,
totally.
maybe you'll gas out if he's super tough and gets out of it. But if you can
Yeah.
end the fight, you roll that dice.
Absolutely. And it's in a tough position because if he goes to defend and like try to shrimp back into guard or whatever, it's like his face is that more vulnerable. If he
Mhm.
goes there and just keeps his elbows up, he can get armbarred. If he turns his back, he, obviously there's the rear naked choke. So it's not a problem, it's a dilemma. And that's what you want to create in fights are dilemmas. Problems can be solved. Dilemmas are like, it's like either bad or very bad, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So explain to me. So you switch from you're basically doing three things here. You're either posting,
Mhm.
elbowing,
Mhm.
or rearing up and punching. So
Yes.
why is that all instinct there? Is it position? Are you just changing it up? Like, why are you going from one to the other in
Yeah,
this
brilliant
sequence?
question, actually. Yeah, so when I'm posting, I'm making sure my chest is over his head, and that's
Yeah.
what prevents him from sitting up and just getting away from me. If I'm too
Yeah.
far back and just hanging out, then he's allowing to plan for his escape. So I'm hovering over him and I'm not letting him get any time to escape or even plan for escapes.
Mhm.
My goal in the mount is to immediately make you so defensive that you're not thinking about getting out. You're thinking about like saving yourself. We see a lot of people get in a mount and they kind of rest there and they allow their opponent to plan for escapes and escape. For me, again, I can't stress this enough. I keep repeating myself, but my goal was to immediately put him on the defensive, to make him pay with punches and elbows, and make him make a decision. What do you want to do? They're
Mhm.
all going to be bad decisions.
So this is a great sequence. One, the hair's much tighter, right? Much cleaner haircut. Didn't roll out of bed there. You get the
Yes.
tap to strikes, which is
Yes.
very rare. That's
Yes.
awesome. And you get the next coolest thing you can do in MMA. Mouthpiece flies out of the face and bounces off of the cage. That is so fucking cool, Kenny. To have a mouthpiece fly out of a mouth and bounce off the cage wall.
Oh, I learned very early on in my
That's
finale fight against Diego Sanchez that there are no friends in mixed martial arts. In fact, if you think that that could lead to your demise, you have to be absolutely brutal and have no mercy inside the octagon. I thought that, hey, Diego's my friend. This is a sport, right? We're going to
mm.
go out there. We're going to try to win. Absolutely. But we're not going to try to like really hurt the other guy, right? Right?
Right?
And I
Yeah,
realized
no.
that was wrong. So I realized like you have to be as brutal as possible because again, the other thing is he could have gotten out, got back to his feet, and knocked me out, and
Yeah.
I was not going to try to allow that to happen. I earned that mount, and I was going to try to make the most out of it.
So we went over the standing elbow, the elbow from guard, and then a mount elbow. What part of your that's what I saw the most. What other parts of your elbow game did I miss that you think need to be brought to light?
Yeah, actually, thank you for reminding me. I wanted to mention this. So from the mount in particular, it's a great opportunity for me to get my body weight behind the elbow. So even if I'm not swinging so much with my elbow, if I can get my chest and head to kind of drop behind that elbow, now you're not just taking the elbow, you're taking most of my weight of the elbow, right? So
Mm,
the elbow is just what's leading almost like a shield, but my body is behind it and dropping behind it. So I'm getting all of my weight behind those shots. If they're
mm,
not cutting, they're hurting. If they're not hurting, they're cutting. And it's creating desperation, right? And the other good thing about using your elbows is it's extremely hard to break your elbow. I mean, it's a
mm,
larger bone in a lot of ways than the fist, of course.
sure.
It's harder to break. It doesn't hurt you at all. Sometimes if you punch in the wrong spot, you can hurt your hand and it can affect you. So it's a great tool to use in tight situations. And again, it does create a whole lot of panic as well.
So that was all your elbows, which is your trademark. I would say probably your striking evolved the most over the course of what I watched, right? Like your wrestling, leveled up pretty good, but I feel like your striking not just got better, but got very diversified over the course of over the course of your career. So I want to go over three fights where I thought your striking kind of showed your evolution. It only went over 3 years. Like we're gonna go from Mishima in '07 to Guida in '09 and then Gomi in 2010. I mean, that's
Okay.
less than 3 years, and I saw, like, serious progression over that time. So let's start with I'm not gonna pronounce his first name, but we'll start with Mishima. If you can look it up yourself, you'll know why I'm not doing that.
Dokunan Jonsuke. Dokunan Jonsuke. It's just like
Here,
that
you
spelled,
say it,
RJ.
and
It's
I'll
very
move my
easy.
mouth, and we'll dub it. There, I just
Dokunan
said it perfectly.
Jonsuke. Yeah.
Yeah, Mishima, that guy. This is April 2007. So really good. Like I asked you, like, which one should we do? And you're like, oh, definitely do the Mishima one. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
Southpaw versus Southpaw, which I think was
Yes.
part why this was, you were able to institute this part of your game. You do this kind of like hitch rush in leg kick, which covers distance. I feel like also makes more power. You do kind of a little hitch that kind of gets them thinking as well. Walk me through these leg kicks and how you were able to do it against Mishima.
Yeah, so I remember when Mark Delagrati was teaching me how to leg kick. He's like, this is one of the staples, like fundamentals of Muay Thai, which
Mhm.
separated that striking art from a lot of different striking arts. Is they kicked your leg, and obviously we need a stable surface when we're doing anything athletic. And if you could take away one of the legs, then
Mhm.
guess what? You're not going to be very effective as an athlete, as a fighter. And so my goal was to really destabilize him and make him slower, make him hesitate, and of course, enact some kind of pain and cost for everything he did. So going southpaw versus southpaw, this was my opportunity to really utilize that leg kick to his lead leg. And the lead leg is so important for a fighter. That's how you're able to generate movement. That's how you're able to generate force. That's how you're able to generate any kind of forward movement. And if that leg is compromised, for anyone that's ever had a Charlie horse or been leg kicked, anytime you lean on that front leg, it hurts, even when you're not getting kicked. And as a former soccer player, Mark was telling me it's
Yeah.
very similar to kicking a soccer ball. You're kind of stepping out, and you can use this jump kind of style of leg kick to cover a lot of distance. If someone's kind of staying on the outside, especially as someone who's looking for a takedown, and it that really resonated with me, and it's not a good strike for people who are very explosive with like double legs and things like that. But
Mhm.
Mishima really wasn't that kind of guy. He was more methodical and slow to kind of get to body clinches and things. So I saw this as a great opportunity to do this because he was pretty patient from the outside, and I figured this would be a really good tool to utilize against him, and it worked quite well. And in fact, I remember Kurt Pellegrino making fun of me or getting me to feel bad because when Mishima left the cage, he was walking down the stairs and actually fell down those steel stairs because his leg couldn't support his weight. It was pretty bad.
And
Yeah.
then and then obviously, you get a guy thinking leg kick and then opens everything else up, right? Like, no brainer here. Now
Yes.
you're there and you're still doing that kinda it looks like you're doing the hitch that I don't know if this is intentional or not, but that little kinda like hitch you do to cover distance and kinda get some momentum going. When you switch your stance, it kinda looks like that a little bit. It kind of
Yeah.
maybe to the opponent kinda looks like oh, here's another leg kick coming, but you're switching your stance. Look, he's already he's thinking leg kick. Right?
Yes,
Like, watch this.
exactly.
He's coming up.
Exactly.
Yep. But you switch and go up top.
Yes. So that, I was again, Mark was a really good coach for me. And he had, I think they called it Moy Chalat, if I'm not mistaken, which in Thai means, like a tricky style of Muay Thai. It wasn't that like brutal style of like, me throwing those heavy leg kicks. That would be more of like a heavy style of Muay Thai. He used
Mhm.
a very like tricky type of Muay Thai. And he'd do a lot of things like that. There was a lot of feints and fakes that he would utilize. And, like Sun Tzu said, all warfare is based on deception. And, when you're getting to think about a certain thing, you do something differently. And when you're able to do that and confuse the opponent like that, you've won. It's just a matter of, getting to the bell safely in a lot of ways because if you have no idea what your opponent is going to do, you're cooked.
Yeah.
And my goal here was to then, because of the threat of the leg kick and because it was compromised, my goal was like, okay, now what is he going to offer up because of the leg kicks? Like,
Yeah.
and I thought it was going to be a head kick. I remember Mark's like, you're going to knock him out with a kick to the head. Actually, you're going to take away his legs and then you're going to take his head off.
Mhm.
I wasn't able to pull it off, unfortunately, but it was enough, to get the finish. With the rear naked, he actually almost tore my knee off with a knee bar during this fight, and I was winning the whole fight. I got lackadaisical. Sorry to go on this one, but this one
No.
ticked me off. He got me in a knee bar after I was winning and dominating the whole fight. I was so
Yep.
mad at myself for letting that happen. I remember like waving John McCarthy off because John McCarthy was like almost going to stop it.
It looked like you were tapping almost, like almost.
Yeah, and I
like,
waved him off. Yeah, I waved him off like
yeah,
I'm good. And I remember
like when
saying
Brock
that.
Lesnar like didn't know how to tap against Frank Mir's knee bar, so he
Yeah.
does this. It looked like you're like
Exactly.
kind of looked
I'm like,
it,
no,
yeah.
John, get back. I remember saying to myself, I was like, okay, he got this. I made this mistake. If he breaks my knee, this is my fault, but I'm not going to tap after all the things I did during this fight. So he definitely tweaked my knee, and then I ended up getting a rear naked choke after this. But yeah, so that was a big lesson for me during this fight. But this was one of the fights where I really had the opportunity to use leg kicks, effectively. It's rare that you go southpaw versus southpaw, but this is one of those where I could utilize this, and this was fun for me.
This was fun to watch. Like this was Mishima's 25th fight, and it was your 8th, and you had him. Look at this. Like this is a seasoned veteran, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, what do I defend? Like I got this kind of up here doing shit. I got this kind of out here. Head's going this way. You do that one little switch, and his whole it just turned his life into a Rubik's cube. You just what? It was awesome.
I was trying,
Very
man.
impressive.
He was a grimy veteran for sure.
Mm-hmm. And back to the leg kicks, and he's limping, and you still start mixing things up. Fake, see, check, try to shake, then you go up top on the other side.
That's what I was looking for. That was the one that Mark really trained me on to try to go upstairs. Wasn't able to kind of quite get to the head like I wanted to. But I mean, the dude was so tough. I when I was hitting him that many times with leg kicks, I thought for sure he was just going to drop from the leg kicks, but yeah, he was really tough.
When you Google this fight, I almost forgot about it. Something else comes up, and I think you know where we're going with this. Now, first off, the sharp haircut, right? Now we're just all business, right? Now we're just shaved head, all business. But if you take a little gander at the Giants can, it's closed, right? That is a closed Giants can.
Yes.
Right? But so get the sponsor, get your money, show it. And I'm kind of thirsty right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a drink.
This is this wonderful beverage after I just won. Let me just take a little swig.
This went viral. I remember people talking about this on the forums. Like it was hilarious, and rightfully so. I got roasted for it. So I was supposed to take a drink. That was a part of the sponsorship. It's like show the Giants drink. You gotta pretend you're taking a sip. And I remember when I got in there, they handed me the drink and they were like, you can't open this inside the octagon or you're going to get fined. You're going to be in trouble. And I was like, but I need to take a drink from it. How do I take a drink from it if I can't open it? So yeah, I take things literally sometimes. But anyways, I really went for it. I really went for it. Yeah.
You did. You didn't fuck around. I think you also went, I think, a little deeper on like as you went, like the third, like to act like you're getting a little less. Like you went a little deeper, Sean.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
It was great. All right, so the last like striking thing I want to go to is one of the cleanest combinations I think of your career, and that was against Clay Guida. Again, this is 2009, UFC 107. You get your trademark rear naked choke, but it came after just a great sequence, and that's generally how you got your rear naked chokes. Is you would beat the crap out of the guy, loosen him up, and then you'd go and get him. But it's a miracle this guy Clay Guida didn't go down here. This is right after your BJ Penn fight. This finishing combo, open stance, right? Southpaw versus right-handed. And I feel like you were much more punch focused in this fight as opposed to like Mishima, some other ones you were kick heavy. Was that because he was such a good wrestler and you wanted to avoid getting taken down? Or was that just kind of where your striking was evolving at that point?
Another awesome question. This was because of the loss to BJ Penn. And I realized that I really needed to focus much more on my hands. BJ was such an educated boxer. And I realized that my jab needed to be established and I needed to make people pay for being in that boxing range, especially for people who wanted to take me down or, there's, and to answer the other part of your question, there's less risk with punches, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. It establishes the range for you. It gives you varying counters as well that are more safe without offering up one of your stable legs. To
Mhm.
kick is great. Yeah, it's absolutely very dangerous as well, with just like a knee or whatever down the middle. But you are now on one leg, so you're less stable. You're less capable of sprawling. So with the hands, you keep your stable base and can still be dangerous so long as you know how to box. And
Yep.
this was kind of the beginning of that evolution, really formulated extremely well behind the first fight that I was with Faraz Sahabi. So him and
This
Peter
was the first.
Welch,
This was the first
the
for us fight.
first Faraz Sahabi fight,
Got it.
yes. So
Okay.
he really
You could
was
tell.
big on my boxing protocol, and coordinated very heavily with Peter Welch, my boxing coach, and Tommy Connors, who was an assistant, Boston legend. He had the record for fastest knockout in Boston Garden history, like 6 or 7 seconds. He was an older guy. They really were very specific on what I should do with my boxing, the combinations, the way I would get my rhythm, and this was a good example of that. And the guys over in South Boston, they said, listen, if you're looking for a rhythm in someone who almost doesn't have a rhythm, you need to kind of dance with them. You bounce with them and you kind of find that cadence, and then you'll get your timing. And that's kind of what I did here. Was I kind of bounced with Clay a little bit. Clay is so unorthodox, RJ, as you know.
Yeah.
He moves so weird that it was hard for me to get a beat on him. That's why I threw the elbow early on in the fight, because I couldn't land any shots on that big, mop of hair of his. And finally, once I kind of got rooted down to the ground. I kind of got in my little bounce, found that timing, and was able to get him coming in. And I said before the fight, I said, I'm going to allow Clay Guida to fall onto my sword. And this was exactly what happened. He ran into something. It was his aggression leading to his own demise here.
Yeah, you can see you're bouncing back,
Yep.
bouncing back. And then right when he throws, so he's kind of like sort of feinting a right
Yes.
hand a little bit, not overly committing. Now, originally, when I watched this, and for however, what was it, 2009, up until
Yep.
like a month ago when I rewatched this, I thought, oh, this was a great 2-3 counter that he landed.
Right. I
He
missed it.
actually does a good
Yeah.
job of pulling on
Yes.
that left. Like it didn't land.
Yes. Yes.
But it ended up being the worst thing for him because he pulled back, but you can see the rest of his body is still kind of moving forward, even though his head's going back. And so
Ru-
his whole body comes like just lunging forward.
100%. So RJ,
right
if you
into
go
that hand.
back, to that, this is great analysis by you. But if you see his positioning, he is all the way, he's leaning on that back leg so much, and his head is almost past his hips in a lot of ways. So yes, he avoided that shot, but he only has one place to go after this, and that's forward. And that's kind of what screwed him here. Is he was all the way back, and just almost like a rubber band, he had to come forward to catch his base, and he ran right into that right hook.
The best part about doing this tape with Guida, you can tell his momentum because his hair is going
His hair
every time. See, now it's
Exactly.
now it's back. Now he's going this
Yep.
way. You can always tell where
Yes.
he's very easy to tape steady, Clay Guida. And yeah, to your point, just runs right into that. That's kind of like a hook, I guess, kind of like a right hook. And then watch, and then he's trying to throw back, and then look at you just circle out of this like a pro.
Yeah, I worked a lot on this defensively of getting underneath someone's punches. The reactionary drills that would work with Peter Welch and Faraz Sahabi were so helpful. We did a lot of kind of Floyd Mayweather style pad work and stuff. And, a lot of people make fun of that stuff, but it really does help with the reaction time and your movement. And the other thing I'll say on this is, people would always tell me, when you hit a knockout punch, you'll never feel it. It will feel like you didn't even touch them. And this was one of those things. And I remember Musashi would say this: whenever you cross swords with an enemy, you must not think of cutting him strongly or weakly. Just think of cutting and killing him. And this is one of those things where it's like, I'm just thinking about landing. I wasn't thinking about trying to like wind up on the shot. And I almost didn't know where he went. Like when I ducked under, I looked up. I'm like, where the hell did he go? I'm like, oh, he's on the ground.
This.
Oh,
you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
Yep. And it was one of those instances where all you need is just to land cleanly. And I think what makes punches like that so dangerous is it's the shots you don't see that hurt you the most, right? Your brain isn't ready for it. It comes out of nowhere, and you allow them to just run into that well-structured fist, and it worked out.
I mean, this is like they don't give belts in boxing, but this is where you get your black belt, right? It's just like perfect combo. And then you do the like if you can get out of the way before he falls on you, like that should immediately be a 10-8 round. If you finish, but like if you can do that and just kind of like get out of the way and they fall, that's just style points for days. It's so
I
fun.
had worked so hard on my boxing leading up to the fight. I actually I had a punch counter, and I was instructed to throw. It started off 500 jabs every day, and then it worked up to
Mhm.
1,000 jabs every day. And I basically, my brother had to report to Faraz, and we literally had a punch counter, and he had to know that like I was doing 1,000 jabs every single day, and that helped build up, my ability to get range and volume and all that stuff. But that's only a part of it. But yeah, I really worked hard to try to land that, and that was one of my favorite sequences in my career for sure. And to do it against a guy like Clay, who at that time had not been finished in the UFC. He ate a shin from Diego Sanchez prior to that, and that didn't take him out. So
Yep.
I was really, really proud of that, especially the fact that I did deal with a little bit of adversity. He took me down during that first round, and so we all the things that we worked on for that fight actually kind of came to fruition, which is sometimes rare in the fight game. So it was good.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the jabs because Takanori Gomi,
Ah,
2010. This is a main event. This is Gomi's debut. And for the new heads who don't know Takanori Gomi, he was considered the best lightweight in the world. He had an amazing run in Pride, Shudo champion, Pride champion, came into the UFC, and everyone's very excited about, we're finally getting Gomi in the UFC. How's he going to do with, there's elbows and the, slightly different rule set and cage versus ring. And this was also when there's Pride versus UFC was still a very big element. Like you were in
yes.
a lot of people's eyes, Kenny, you were representing UFC. He was representing Pride. Um, what was it like being the debut fight for a legend like Gomi, who I assume you probably looked up to for, before and after, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because I did consider it that. I did consider it. It was UFC versus Pride, and
Mm.
I think it was like 7 years. Gomi was on top of the lightweight world. As far as being the best lightweight in the world, and this was my dream fight. This was the fight that I always wanted. I always thought, hey, maybe I'll fight in Pride one day and fight Takanori Gomi in Japan.
Mhm.
And I got a chance to fight him in the UFC in my UFC debut. So there wasn't, I mean, this was just a perfect scenario for me. So, and it was a very dangerous fight. He had
Yeah.
beaten a lot of guys that had attempted to take him down. And my goal was I didn't want to force takedowns. I didn't want to create any desperate moments in this fight for myself. I wanted to lead the dance the whole time and let him know who was in charge the whole time on the feet and on the ground. And I said, when I take him down, when I decide to take him down, the jab was a crucial point of this fight because he swung kind of wildly, like
Yeah.
So I wanted to let him know that he wasn't going to be able to just come forward whenever he wanted to. I was going to lead the dance. I was going to back him up when I wanted to. If he wanted to come forward, I was going to keep him out of that range. So the jab was a huge component of this fight.
That was literally my first question because normally you do like what you've done throughout the course of your career is you'd kind of skirt the outside of the cage, try to set up your southpaw, like straight lefts and kicks. Like that was the bulk of your career.
Mhm.
You take the center of the octagon,
Yeah,
which you don't normally do.
Yes, exactly. And this was me, like all the hard work, like starting from that Clay Guida fight, kind of led to this because, you know, like my jab was good before, but now it was like it was
You couldn't
educated
miss.
and I knew when to use it. And I had varying types of jabs. There's like the step power jab right there. I'm kind of using a flick jab, which is something
Mhm.
that Faraz Sahabi really emphasized in his type of striking style. And I was like really trying to use it to pepper him up and
Mhm.
let him know, like, yeah, you think I'm a grappler, but I'm actually not. I'm here to like initiate my boxing and let you know that you're in for a fight tonight. So that was a big component was take away his confidence early.
Yeah, your jab couldn't miss, and this is early. Like you got so hyped on it, you started doing the jig.
I did a little dance.
Like
Look at those
like
shorts,
you
man.
were because I mean, and rightfully so. Like you could not miss. with this jab against a guy that's like, he was known as the knockout artist, right? He had a wrestling
Yes.
background and submission wrestling background, but that's why I thought, okay, he's going to back up, try to get Gomi to swing wildly and catch him. But you took the fight to him, and it made his, instead of aggressive, like big punches he likes to throw, you made him reactive, which isn't normally
Yes.
how he likes to fight.
Yes, and it also creates a little bit of desperation in that if he needs to get to me, he's gonna have to do it fast. And if he's gonna
Mm,
do it fast, it's gonna allow me to get a good reactive double leg takedown.
mm,
So it's like, all right, well, if I can't just walk in on him and throw my shots, then I'm gonna have to leap and lunge. And when Gomi leaps and lunges, that's where he's most vulnerable. That's where anybody is most vulnerable for a takedown.
mm.
In wrestling and judo, it's like short choppy steps moving forward. It's never leaping, lunging movements because you don't have contact with the ground. If you don't have contact with the ground, then you don't have stability and you're easy to take off your feet. That ended up kind of paying off later on in the fight when I would look for the double leg.
Yeah, and it only took you 3 minutes to get him really biting on your feints because he's like, you're landing so many jabs and couldn't miss, and like you said, different types, right? Like because you look like you extend a lot here, right?
Yep.
Like there's a lot of distance, but like you said, he's not reactionary, so you can,
Yes.
so it feels like you could sacrifice a little stability for length because
Mhm.
he normally doesn't have the tools to take advantage of someone who reaches a little bit. Fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another Sun Tzu quote: If you make your opponent flinch, you've already won." And I think
Mhm.
that, like, you know, confusing them and again using that deception is huge. And what it does is it slows down the brain. Like, listen, the brain that is thinking is 300% slower than the brain that's just like automatic.
Mhm.
So fainting slows you down tremendously because you're calculating. You're like, okay, is this real? Is this not real? Is this real? Is that not real?
Yeah.
So anytime you're doing that, you're slower and it allows openings like, okay, he's reacting to this in this way. Now what can I kind of layer on top of that? So once I got him biting, I was like, okay, this fight is mine now.
It's crazy that's only your second fight, 'cause this is right after Guida, so it was your second fight at TriStar, and
Yep.
that is the TriStar jab. That
Yes.
Rory McDonald, George St. Pierre, just the trademark long, you're not there's, like, power jabs, which is kinda there, but it's mostly you're just like, "I'm stable, and I'm just
Yes.
ruining your life from a safe distance," and it took you 2 fights to, more or less master whether their trademark move.
Yeah, thanks. I worked really hard on it. I remember picking Faras's brain, George St. Pierre's brain. In fact, I tested it so well that George hit me with a lot of jabs in sparring because of that research. So I knew how effective it was from sparring with George every single day. I mean, he was just an absolute master of the jab. And
Yeah.
looking at it, asking him questions, working on it repeatedly, working it with my boxing coaches, Peter Welch and Tommy Connors. Like it was a huge step in my evolution. So I mean, I don't think there was one day that I wasn't throwing jabs. Even on my day off, I was kind of throwing them a lot. So
Yeah, I asked you, what fight you think like kind of encapsulates your career or, like the best one. And you said Gomi, which makes sense because it was your fourth to last fight. So you'd been, pretty experienced. It was the jab, and it was also your trademark rear naked choke at the end as well. So like it really did like kind of encapsulate everything you did. Like this is just standard operating procedure for you, right? You get the back or you get mount, you make him give up the back, rear naked choke, like your standard, it's like your standard sequence right there.
yeah, again, my goal was to be a very aggressive here. And, the way I look at mount and back mount is it's kind of like a box. I call it like a box principle of how I'm controlling. Like I'm kind of,
Okay.
you want to line up your hips and shoulders with theirs. So I had
Mhm.
learned some lessons from losing that position against Roger Huerta in the past. And my goal was to kind of line up my body with them. And if he was going to get up, then he's going to offer up space behind him. And that's where I kind of slipped to his back and got that rear naked choke. Thankfully. So yeah, I was able to kind of put a lot of these tools that I, together. And I also had a crazy, nasty knee staph infection before this fight. So I was glad,
Ooh.
I dealt with a lot leading up to this fight. So I was glad that it all kind of worked out. There's the space he's offering behind his back. I slip to his back. And a lot of people kind of take their time to punch in a rear naked choke. My
Mhm.
goal was to keep my hand high above their shoulder as quickly as possible. The other thing is the securing arm that goes behind the head. This is something a
Mhm.
lot of people do wrong. They should never see the arm that goes behind that head. So my securing hand, right now it's going inside the arm, but you'll notice, so look how high
Mhm.
my choking hand is. Like there's nothing to grab. The only thing he can grab is like my elbow, so it's already underneath the neck, so it's very deep behind him. He doesn't see it, he can't really reach to it. And now
Mhm.
when I punch in the securing arm, so my right arm, again, he never gets a chance to see that hand. Because if you put that in front of him and do the, like kind of one of these, RJ, where you like
Mhm.
you slide it in and you put it in front of their face, well, they
Yeah.
always grab that hand. So the securing arm should never be visible to the person that's defending it. So it
Okay.
just punches right behind the head. So it takes away their defense completely.
Another thing that's also kind of a trademark of yours is you're really good at when you've got guys in bad position, right? Like mount or kind of like a, a 3/4 mount or whatever, and you're punishing them and they want, am I gonna give up my back or am I gonna, circle, give up mount and get knocked out? You do this great job. And I don't know if you do this on purpose or if I'm missing something here, but so your arm right here is just pressuring, right? It's just
Mhm.
pushing down on his face, right? You're
Yep.
trying to hold him down to stay in mount. I feel like you're baiting him to get his momentum going this way because then you switch from that pressure arm directly into a choke arm, and then your hips just go whoop around to the back.
Exactly correct. It's almost like enacting pressure and then getting him to push back. It's like, oh, he really wants this. Okay, no problem. You can have it, but I'm going to go somewhere else. And
Mhm.
that's where that space behind his back opened up. And that's where I was able to rotate. And also, that arm is also now in a perfect position to slide that choke right in there. So
Yeah.
it was like either you stay here or you want to come up. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. And then,
Mhm.
getting that same arm that was pressuring and putting some weight into him to release that pressure and then offering up the rear naked choke.
Yeah, and you got this arm posted, which gives you space for your hips to come
Mm-hmm.
around, and it's just whoop, and just so fast, right into position. Beautiful.
Yep. And there's the
Legend
finish.
taps out. And you do that often. Like that's something that I think multiple rear naked chokes, you were kind of like, if you're gonna stay in mount, I'm gonna keep going, and you're kind of waiting for them to give up the back, and then you immediately it wasn't just Gomi. You did that I think 2 or 3 times over the
Yes,
course
yeah,
of the UFC
against Joe
career.
Stevenson. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Again, and it was one of those things where I did not wait and like plan. Like I was never setting it up. It was just I was gonna punch that thing right in from the get go.
Mhm.
Because with the gloves, I realized that like it is different. Um, you know, People love grabbing gloves. People love grabbing the wrists and things like that. So I spent a lot of time working on using the rear naked choke with the gloves. And like even when I was just doing jujitsu, I would have the UFC gloves on all the time, and allow people to grab them
Smart.
if they could. So just because it was a nuisance for a while when I first started using them, and then I had to like find an adaptation for how to finish it with the gloves.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Joe Stevenson because that's the next one. This is
Mm.
2008. You won this fight. It earned you a title shot against BJ Penn. And oftentimes, like we talked about earlier, you and so many others, BJ Penn, like they get a lot of rear naked chokes, but it's often after you soften them up, right? Against Gomi, 3 rounds, you beat him up. Against Guida, you had him almost knocked out and you got him. Joe Stevenson had just gotten his black belt by Robert Drysdale a week before. And this is early in round one. So this isn't like, okay, you beat him half to death, semi mercy sub. This is a fresh, not beaten up Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. And you're still able to pull this off. So we'll pick this up when you've already gotten the takedown. And then you just do your standard issue knee slide, mount, your trademark ground and pound, right? You're reared up with punches. And then he turns and gives up his back. A little high here, but you're still able to stay on top.
Mhm.
Reestablish position, and you're already thinking it, right? You're already kind of thinking it there. And then he comes up, grabs, and then bam.
Yes.
He gave up both arms for a split second, and that's all it took.
Exactly. So I got a little high there, and I actually he did a great job. He's so stocky, and he did a great job of removing his left leg from both of my leg hooks. So
Mhm.
what I did is I shoved my left leg across his body into the body triangle, and I
Yep.
let go because I actually wanted him to try to posture up because I knew he was trying to get up. He was super strong. So
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him go. I'm going to take my hands away, allow him to stand up. And for some reason, I don't know why, like he put his hands on the cage and
Mhm.
now he's defenseless. So I just punched that choke in as quickly as I could and got that rear naked. And, you talked about him getting his black belt from Robert Drysdale, one of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts out there. Brilliant mind for grappling and fighting. And I was nervous heading into this fight because Joe Stevenson was tapping a lot of black belts in grappling competitions. Like I knew about Joe Stevenson for a very long time. He was famous for his footlocks and he was famous for his guillotines. And my
Mhm.
brother Keith and I had just opened Florian Martial Arts in Boston and Brookline, Massachusetts, and we had just opened up, and that was our time. Like we weren't open yet, but we had the building, we had the mats laid down, and we just worked for hours on defending footlocks and defending guillotines, all different types of guillotines. We just did that over and over and over again, and came up with just positional ways to thwart those attacks. And then once I found comfort in defending his best attacks, that allowed me to be way more offensive with my jiu-jitsu. I was like, okay, well, if I can do all these things and I know how to get out of his best moves, then that frees me to kind of do what I want. That kind of unleashed my grappling that much more. So I went in there very confident. But when I started that fight, when I got word that I was going to fight Joe Stevenson, it was a concern. It was a
Yeah.
worry because he was damn Ultimate Fighter 2 winner, had a ton of freaking experience, and he was fighting since he was like a teenager. So
Really good
Joe was a
wrestler
stud.
too.
Really good
JUCO
wrestler,
state
man.
champ. Yeah.
Yeah,
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 but
he
it's
was
been
brilliant.
really bad for business for Florian Martial Arts if you open it up and the next fight you get tapped out. It's
That's
like
right. Dude, tell me
your
about it, man.
brother's like, okay, dude, like you just can't. Come on, we need some memberships here. We're starting this thing up. We got to look good.
Yeah, Keith had as much vested interest in that one as I did, for sure. He was like, "You are not losing to this guy," and Keith just prepared me so well on the ground for this one. It was awesome.
So last one. I thought, in my opinion, I thought your best kind of overall performance was Roger Huerta. 2008. It was in Huerta's hometown in Minneapolis, and at this point, Huerta's 21-1 going into this fight. Right, UFC's pushing him huge, and obviously it makes sense. Right, it was the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was just coming off his Clay Guida win, fight of the year in
Yeah, it's
2007, and he
crazy.
had just had 5 straight wins in '07, broke the record for most wins in a calendar year. Like he was flying, right? um and you answered that call really, really well. Like there was really no point in this fight where, for the guy who like finishes fights, you think that would be like not your consummate fight. But I thought everything, like context, the momentum of your opponent, where you were in your career, the wrinkles in your game that you showed, like where was your head going in to a guy who like was soon to be the poster boy for the UFC and had that kind of momentum?
I was loving it. Like to me, this
Nice.
was such a great situation for me because he was the like one of the biggest names in the sport at that moment.
Mhm.
So I don't think a whole lot of people gave me a chance. I don't think anyway. Like Roger was the name. He was the dude. As you
Yeah.
said, he was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. Was in negotiations with the UFC at the time to like he wanted a crazy amount of money. So he like there was a lot at stake for him as well. Like if he beat me, that would have led to a massive contract. And it's for me, I was like, you know what? I don't think he deserves all this hype. I see holes in his game
Mhm.
and I'm going to beat him. Yet please give him to me. And I finally got this fight and I was just fired up. I was like, yeah, in Minneapolis, yes, give it to me. I want it. Like, so I was really fired up for this opportunity. I saw this as a huge way of gaining a bunch of fans and proving myself as a well-rounded mixed martial artist against a guy who was a true brawler, and people thought he was like unstoppable. So I loved it. And, I remember Roger, we were on a PR tour, and this fired me up even more. I remember we were on a PR tour, and the PR girl got up, went to the restroom or to take a phone call or something, and it was just me and Roger at the table for breakfast.
Awkward.
Yeah, it was just me and him, and he leaned over. He's like, "You know what, man? You seem like a nice guy, but I'm in negotiations with the UFC right now, and I'm sorry, bro, but I'm gonna have to make an example out of you. I'm gonna have to really take it to you, and I'm gonna hurt you." And I remember, I kind of started laughing. I was like, "Yeah, man, I get it. You got to do what you got to do." And in my mind, I'm like, I am going to kill you. So, so you got to
just smile and nod.
You got to appear weak. So I just like, yeah, I totally get it, man. It's all, I get it. So, that was like in my mind, I was like, I wanted to win anyway, but like hearing that on a personal level, I was like, okay, now I have to win. And then to make matters a little bit more challenging, prior to the fight, I ate like an idiot after my weigh-in, and I got really sick to the point where I was in the bathroom when they called my name for the walkout. Like I had to scramble to get into position to do my walkout. And I won't go into details for anybody, but I literally remember praying to God during my walkout and saying, it wasn't even that I won the fight. I remember praying that I would just at least make it through round one. I did not want this guy to finish me early. That was like that's how bad I felt. I was like, this is not a good situation. And just please don't let him finish me in round one. That's how screwed up my stomach was. So anyways, it worked out. I felt more like myself in round 3, but it was a battle, dude.
So with respect to the stomachs of every viewer listening to this, but also respects to the truth, which direction were you worried about? Both? One direction?
One direction.
South? One direction. Yeah. Got it.
One direction. Yeah.
It's shocking how common that is. Like, so many fights. Because, like, think about it. Your nerves are going crazy. You just cut weight 24 hours before.
Yes.
You're, in another country often with food. It's like, it's more common than I think people think.
I think so. Yeah. It was
and to do that on a card when George St. Pierre's the main event and Brock Lesnar's the co-main event.
Yes.
A couple eyeballs.
It was a big deal. Yeah.
A few people watched this fight. Yeah.
It was a big event for sure.
All right, let's get into it. Again, hair on point. Little sweaty here, but got some sideburns going, little
I don't know what's going on there.
Constant evolution. Evolution.
Oh man, bad hair.
So out of the gate, right? A minute in, he runs in with the leg kick as he does, right? He does this kind of like lunging. It's either like Superman punches or kind of lunging kicks to get to cover that distance. Third time you time it. Bam.
Yes. Yeah, and it was funny because his nickname was the Matador, and I was telling everybody in my camp, the running joke was, he's called the Matador, but he's actually the bull, and you're going to show him who the Matador is. Mm. And that's kind of what I did, because he is like a bull. The dude just moves forward. He wants to kill you. He has incredible confidence in himself, in his chin, in his durability, in his ability to kind of withstand punishment. Like, he is an absolute beast. But so I had to be really smart and calculated in this fight. And this is what I was trying to show. It was like, okay, you can move forward. But again, I that's why I enjoyed fighting guys that were aggressive. It was going to make for a better fight. And it was actually going to allow my weapons to show off much more, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look at all this distance on his attack, right? There's all this space, and he comes lunging in. I don't know what he was. Oh, it's kind of like shifting into a punch, but he's kind of ducking. But you still managed to get under this.
He slowed because of that little feint. Like if you look at prior to, like, I do a little feint, so he kind of questioned himself and like stopped the lunging punch because he was like, "Oh shoot, is he gonna hit me? Is he gonna is he trying to level change?" So I did just a little bit of like that little head nod, and that's where he was like, "Uh-oh," and he kind of stopped himself. So he got himself an awkward movement forward, and it took away the steam off his punch as well.
Yeah, like this isn't a stance you ever use for anything.
That's not the old hunched grandma position.
It's like, if you're in a walker, maybe you're like this. But yeah, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, just a little tiny head nod, and he's
Yeah.
completely out of position. And then, I mean, textbook wrestling here, Florian. Like you've got
Yeah.
distance here, right? Knees
Yep.
bent, hips low, right? Heads down, but not, you're not like just down, down, and then um, eyes on the prize,
Yeah,
right there.
and I just try to
Let him
get my
drive.
shoulders in those hips and just drive
Bang.
through, keep the feet moving. And he did a good job of like, scrambling back to his feet there. But what it did is it at least let him know that again, there's going to be a cost for your aggression. If you move forward too much,
Mm.
I'm looking for the takedown. If you move forward, I'm going to throw a knee. If you move forward, I'm going to be doing this and that. So
So you broke your record for takedowns in this fight. You had five.
oh well.
Was that always the plan going in? Like it was supposed to be a wrestling heavy one.
Yeah, for sure. Like that.
Okay.
That was. I mean, I definitely wanted to strike them a little more, but because I wasn't feeling well, I wanted to let him carry my weight for as much as possible. I wanted to use my ground game to slow him down and to kind of preserve my energy because I didn't know how much I was going to have in this fight. So yeah,
Mhm.
it was probably a little bit more than what the game plan called for because I wasn't feeling so great. So yeah, it was this was an interesting one.
All right. In this one, you kind of get a little bit more aggressive, right? You hop into range, single. So this was kind of, what do you call this that you're doing?
It was a sloppy Superman punch, is what it was. It was
Okay. Going for
horrible.
Superman. Okay.
Yeah, like watching this was like a little bit cringe. My boxing certainly wasn't what it was, for Clay Guida or for Takanori Gomi, but
Yeah.
I had little tricks up my sleeve. It was kind of like
Yeah.
he expected a kick to come. I was going to throw a Superman punch, and it wasn't
Mhm.
overly effective. But what it allowed me to do was get into clinch range and slow things down. So
Well, to your point again,
wasn't the
he's not a
prettiest thing, but it worked.
he's a forward bull. He's not that
Yeah.
reactionary, so you can get away
Right.
with maybe not a textbook. It's not a textbook Superman punch, but you're like, I don't. There's not a
Yes.
giant threat of being countered. So I got what I
Yes.
wanted, right? I got into my
Yes,
clinch. I
exactly.
got into my single leg. You can kind of get you can get away with maybe not having something perfect yet to get what you want.
Totally.
So not
Totally.
not quite the same wrestling stance you should have here, but
No,
he's
no, this
he's hanging hard with this Kimura grip.
he is. Now, from here, either I need to get my head out and put it on if we're looking at Roger, on the right side of his body so I can take his back. I wasn't quite able to do that. And what I should have done, so I went down on my knees, and what I should be doing at this point for those wrestling fans is I should be circling to his back now. I need to kind of posture up, get a good connection to that knee, put my shoulder heavy into his hip, and then circle to his back.
Mhm.
I didn't quite have that level of wrestling. I was able to tug on his leg a little bit, get that shoulder pressure by pulling instead of driving. But so not the most efficient thing, but it worked nonetheless. I was able to hook his ankle with my right leg. This is more of a jujitsu single, almost like I'm
Mhm.
coming up from a dogfight position,
Mhm.
and then able to hip switch to his side control, and then able to take the back again, offering up a dilemma. You're going to turn your back, cool. I'll throw the hooks in.
And you go right to your game, right? Punch. If he hides, then you start stretching him out, right? He has to
Yeah.
build up, and you punch, right? That's kind of that back and forth.
Yes, exactly. And he was very, very slippery. I remember after that fight, I was like, he had to be oiled up. But again, I don't want to make
Mhm.
accusations. I did make that accusation when we fought, but he was so dang slippery, man. Obviously
Yeah.
tough, but he also is raising his butt up, lowering his head, which obviously is going to create that slant for me to slide down. So props to him for that. Not great positioning there, and I wasn't able to transition like I did against Joe Stevenson and get that right leg across to get that body triangle. So
Mhm.
props to him for getting that hook out. And for me, a lot of people like to try to fight to get those hooks back. Once I
Yeah.
started losing positioning, I was like, the last thing I want is for Roger Ware to get any momentum in this fight. I didn't want him to get on top. So I just bailed. I was like, you know what? He doesn't want me to do this. I feel like I'm losing position. I'm just going to kind of bail here.
It's crazy how many very high level fighters just refuse to give up back, and you're just like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm bailing, right? Like I'm not
Yeah.
going to keep it. Well, I'm not going to get on bot. I'm not going to go for some like arm bar that's like a 1% chance. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to bail. Yeah, which was
Exactly.
like, it's smart, right? You live to fight another day. It's not like you were losing on your feet anyway. Um,
Yes.
this is just so cool. Like again, as a lifelong wrestler who is like double leg, single leg, chain wrestle, setup. You're burning all these calories, and it's so hard to be able to do these Thai foot sweeps. It's just fuck you, Kenny. Like it's just not fair for you to be able to get a almost zero risk takedown attempt, right? So low risk takedown attempt. You burn 1.5 calories. He has to get up, and then you still have the MMA wherewithal to get 2 punches in. So like you burned like 3 calories in this entire exchange with almost no risk, and I hate you for it.
Yeah, full credit goes to Mark Delagrati for being absolutely masterful with this. Another training partner of mine at the time, Neil Lagallo, was so good at off balancing. So even if they didn't get the sweep, so just like you said, there's no cost because you're not committed on a connective type of takedown on the legs or on the body. So you basically you catch them off balance, you get them moving, like you fake, you get their feet together a little bit if you can. You sweep their foot out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you off balance them and you make them look silly. So a lot of this also mentally just crushes you as a fighter because you're like, oh man, really? I just got hit with this. So it makes you look dumb, and it makes you either angry or like makes you feel silly, or so it kind of defeats you mentally in a lot of ways. And if again, like you said, you waste no energy in this process. There's not a whole lot of risk. I had hit this so many times in sparring, and I had never hit it in a fight. So I was so pumped to finally pull this off, and it worked okay. Obviously, the best scenario is like you get side control, right? But at the very least, I was able to sweep him off his feet, make him look silly, and land some punches after that. Because as you're recovering to try to get your base, you're vulnerable to strikes. So this worked out pretty cool. Not as clean as I would have liked, but it worked.
Well, it definitely added to the attrition like you were talking about. And we'll get into the third round in just a second here because you see he kind of defeats himself. But like, don't underestimate like this sell job. Like your face is just like you kind of do one of these things to really give him like you're really selling it.
Yeah.
And then you do this like you shift. And so he doesn't know what's coming because you're shifting. So he just kind of turns his head around and he turns his body this way.
Yes.
I'm not sure why, because if you're expecting a leg kick, you should teep or you should raise your leg and turn it the other way.
Right.
But I think he was just kind of befuddled, and it set up this leg sweep because he had now turned his legs this way, which means his weight can go back that way.
Correct. And again, like my goal prior to this fight was to outclass him. You know, I wanted to finish him, but I wanted to show that I was a different class of fighter. Like I wanted to show that I had way more weapons, way more tools, and to show him, especially after the trash he was talking, in my mind, I knew I was the better fighter and I had to show it. Like I had to show him there was levels to the game. So I took a lot of pride in trying to really out technique him and show that it doesn't matter how tough you are. It doesn't matter how badly you want to beat me. You need skills in this game. And I was glad that I was able to show that in that.
And it all kind of culminated in the start of the third round. So here you are coming out, hey, babe, we're good. Everything's fine. Like I forgive you for all the things that you said, right? Yeah. And so he's thinking leg kick. And what do? Oh, the disrespect. Just toes to the chin. The most disrespectful thing you can do in Muay Thai. He thinks leg kick, and you just go, bam.
The Zohan move. And I was happy that I actually landed this before Anderson Silva did against Vitor Belfort. So, I was like, Anderson was the first one to do it.
Anderson's been copying your style for years.
Anderson's copied
He's been watching Florian tape since day one.
Apparently, he kicks a little bit harder than me, too, because he got a knockout. I just got like a little, Roger was like, I think there's a bug in here. But at least the goal was to land this and confuse him. And again, to make him look silly and to hit this shot in a deceptive way. Like, yes, I'm going to try to kick you to the body or kick you to the leg. Nope, going upstairs to your face. Well, and that was the second time that I landed this in the fight. So I was pretty pumped.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's trying to check, right? He's obviously thinking leg kick. And you got that. Now, this is the other part, too. He felt that disrespect.
Yeah.
Because he was not this aggressive ever again in the fight, and he just goes the full bull like you're talking about. Like, he's
Yes.
just like, "I can't believe you did that to me, Kenny. Now we're going nuts." And you gotta,
Right.
you timed it with that takedown. You're able to defend this one. Couple knees, and here's the aggression, and you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna matador you." Another knee,
Yes.
shakes his head. He throws a knee takedown. So like you turned him into what he said he would be with that deep to the face,
Yes.
and turned into a great sequence for you.
Yeah, it did. I got the takedown there. I'm kind of just holding his leg as a lever to try to keep him from getting back to his feet. If the bottom of your feet can't touch the floor, then you're not going to stand up. So I'm just kind of holding that. I'm not really trying to threaten a knee bar there. I'm just
I was
keeping that
wondering,
leg up in
how
the
bad did
air.
you want knee bar though?
Yeah, it was tough because the fence was there. That would have been nice, but also I know Roger's the type of guy to let his knee pop or dislocate. So I was like,
Yeah.
it's there. The cage is there. I know how tough Roger is. I'm just going to hold this, keep him on the ground, accrue some fight time, eat the clock a little bit and just beat him up. I wasn't concerned here. I was just going to hold it and frustrate Roger. He can't win the fight from this position. So I was just going to kind of chip away, get him to waste energy and get on top.
And so now this is about 2 minutes later. And notice the difference in reaction from the first time you've teeped him in the face to the second time. So fake, boom. There it is again, right? Nice little setup, right? Raise the leg. Now he's thinking, right? He's thinking, up, leg kick, teep, and then now look at him. Instead of coming after you, he's just like,
Yes.
God damn it, not again. Right?
Yeah.
So you broke him.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that break a guy mentally. And to do that against Roger, who again, like if I decided to just go out there and go, okay, man, it's about whose heart is bigger and all this stuff, like I'm throwing the dice in that situation. And candidly, with everything that Roger has dealt with in his life, like he's lived a tougher life than old Kenny Florian. So I didn't want to make it about that. I wanted to make it about who was the better fighter. That was my best chance of winning. And throwing another one of those teeps to the face was like my way of saying like I own you now. Like I can do things like this. And when he didn't press forward, that broke his heart more than anything else, right?
Yeah, that's why I love that fight for you. I mean, it was just like, I think the one of the nice things boxing has over MMA is, when it's 10, 12 rounds, you can really tell a story of a fight, swings of
Mhm.
momentum and adjustments. In a 3-round fight here, you saw him change, you saw, the seeds you planted in round 1 landing in round 3. You see this bull just kind of start to wither towards the end, not because he was so badly hurt, but he was just kind of lost and confused and biting on everything. And that's why I love this fight for you, Kenny. I think, like, for the guy that says I finish fights, you didn't get a finish. I think it was everything else that made you so special in that fight.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much, RJ. I love your breakdowns and analysis, man. And we've worked together for a long time, but to see what you're doing now and just absolutely crushing it is a pleasure. And of course, it's why we have you on our podcast as well. So thanks so much for having me, man. This was a lot of fun because I hate going back and watching my fights because I'm looking at all the things I did wrong. So it's cool to kind of go back and watch some of these fights and go down memory lane with you.
It was the joy is all on this side of the Zoom stream. Trust me, Kenny. This was, again, like, I watch all this tape and I'm like, am I getting this? Am I completely getting this wrong? And for you to say like, no, this is, you actually, you can't believe it, RJ. You actually saw this one correctly. I'm like,
You're crushing it, man.
thanks, Kenny.